Good morning, guys. Welcome to Liverpool FC Journal. I'm Owen W. James. This is your Liverpool news update, guys, on what is match day, Premier League match day. Look, realistically, we all know, we all would have loved to have had a full card of Premier League fixtures yesterday on Boxing Day, which is tradition, isn't it? It's tradition, guys. I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I love a full card of Boxing Day fixtures. You get away from the family, you go to the pub with your mates, you go and watch the football, laughing. But no, it didn't happen. Premier League didn't want to do it. Don't know why. Just didn't want to do it. But today, full card of fixtures, and Liverpool take on Wolves at Anfield this afternoon, and it's a trap game, as they say in America. A trap game, guys, is a game you're supposed to win. A game that features two teams at polar opposites. You know, a good team against a poor team. A team that should beat this team against a team that, you know, should be easily beaten. That's what we call a trap game, and it's a game that often you fall into that trap of thinking it's easy, it's going to be in the bag, and it all goes horribly wrong. Look, I'm not saying that for a minute. That's going to happen this afternoon between Liverpool and Wolves. You know, Wolves are not a good team. Let's get that straight. Their form of recent times is shocking. They're bottom of the league. They've only got 2 points. They're a very poor side. They lost 4-1 to Manchester United. That's how bad they are. They're not a good side. They are a really poor side. And Liverpool, yes, do have injuries. Do not get me wrong. We are down to what is known as, I think in the term of business, the bare bones of this squad. There are very few options for Arne Slot to use this afternoon. You know, striker-wise, Isak is out. Obviously, centre-backs, there are no backup centre-backs. Right back, you're down to someone who's probably not really a right back, playing right back. You've got so many players missing, and it just shows that the squad is so thin. This squad is nowhere near at a standard that you expect from a Liverpool team. And you know, Arne Slot can try out all this bollocks about, you know, we've got enough options in this place, that place, whatever. We all know he's talking crap. He does talk a lot of crap. Slot is just full of shit. We know that. We know that obviously the squad was not strengthened, and we know that one of the biggest, hugest issues at this club was the fact that we didn't get a centre-back in the summer window. They left the Gahey deal to the last minute. They screwed that one up. It should have been done earlier in the window. You know, that's what it is, guys. You know, that's where we're up to at this moment in time. Now, look, we're going to talk a little bit of January transfer business first before we talk a bit more about the game later. But look, and this is something that's coming out from a number of sources. And, you know, I've got to say that you've got to be honest about what's going on at the club. And I think there are a number of some people out there who are so dishonest about what is going on at this football club. You talk about the likes of James Pearce, for example, who I think doesn't go to games or doesn't watch games or is so far at the club's arse he can't actually see the game. When he talks about this team gelling, I don't know what he's watching, because this team ain't gelling with James. You know, genuinely, if you think this team is gelling, you don't understand football, mate. You really don't go and stick to lacrosse or to polo or something like that. You might be better off watching that, because you quite clearly know, well, about as much as this dead leaf about football. So there you go. But look, you know, it is what it is. But there's a lot of conversations going on around Liverpool about what's going to happen this January transfer window. And there was a lot of speculation, obviously, saying that Semenyo was coming and Gahey was coming, and Liverpool would then be forced into the market because of the Isak injury, because of the injuries to centre-backs. All of this stuff was coming out. It appears highly unlikely Liverpool will be active during this transfer window, which to me is kind of giving up on the season. And I think there was an awful lot of doublespeak and misleading quotes coming out of the club about this season and the season going forward, to be perfectly honest with you. This is something that's come out from the club. Now, this is, again, from reliable sources. This is from Greg Evans of The Athletic. Also, James Pearce is saying something very similar. Lewis Steele saying something very similar to this as well. So these are sources that are up the club's arse, that you know, like some of the bigger podcasts out there, who brown nose the club, big style, and don't actually speak for the fans. I'm not naming any names, some of the big ones. Not Anfield Agenda, love Anfield Agenda. Craig, for me, is one of the only people who actually does speak his mind and actually speak as a true fan. You know, I love Craig to bits. But look, this is what's been written. Liverpool intends to avoid significant transfer activity during the January window after completing most of their recruitment in the summer. Club sources suggest that the organisation prefers long-term planning over temporary fixes. The leadership believes this existing roster, which makes me sick, it's not a fucking roster, it's a squad. We don't play in the NHL or the NFL. We play in England in football, not soccer. Guys, this is not the MLS. This is football in England. Is capable of meeting the objectives of this season. Now, right, okay, let's get down to unpicking that comment a little bit. So first of all, that last paragraph, I know it seems a bit weird to take it that way round, but let's just take that last paragraph, because that's one that speaks to me massively there. It says the leadership believes this existing roster squad is capable of meeting the objectives of this season. Right, what were the objectives of this season then, Richard and Arna and Michael Edwards? What were the objectives then? Because at the moment, it looks like your objective is to miss out on the Champions League, or to fight and scrap and battle and maybe get the fourth spot, to throw all the domestic cup competitions away, because I think the FA Cup will come under the Arna slot, I don't give a fuck, League Cup style approach to that, because the guy just doesn't get it. And the Champions League, if he thinks we're going to win the Champions League with this squad, as it is at this moment in time, with the likes of, your PSGs, your Arsenals, your Bayern Munich's around, you're having a laugh, mate. You're having a fucking laugh. It ain't going to happen, mate, at this moment in time. So, what are the objectives? Because if you go back to the start of the season, and guys, do your research, go back, look at the quotes at the start of the season from this man. These men, both of them, Slot and Hughes, both came out and said that the objectives of this season were to have a squad. This is why we signed Isak and Ekitike and Wirtz and Kirkes and so on and so forth, and tried and failed through bad planning and bad business to get Gahey, was to build a team capable of competing in all 4 competitions, that being the Premier League, the FA Cup, the League Cup, which Arna Slot threw away, and the Champions League. That's what their stated objectives were. At this point in time, is this squad capable of competing for all 4 trophies? Well, obviously not, because we're out of the League Cup, because Arna threw it away. We are out of the league. I believe we're not going to win the league this season. I think it's going to be Arsenal, Man City. I think Man City will probably win it at the end of the day, because Arsenal will choke again. Champions League, like I said, realistically ain't going to happen, not strong enough. And FA Cup is a possibility, I believe, if Arna takes it seriously. That's where we're up to at this moment in time. So the objectives appear to change throughout the season, and you can't have one set of, as a business, you can't set a set of objectives at the start of the season and suddenly halfway through the season go, oh fuck, we're doing shit, let's quickly change it. You can't do that. You've got to have high expectations, and this football club aspires to high expectations, and to me, Arna Slot, Richard Hughes don't seem to want to aspire to those high aspirations. Right, let's get a little bit backwards on this. So, Liverpool tends to avoid significant transfer activity during the transfer window. So that may indicate that there may be some transfer activity. Some. Because there bloody needs to be. Because we are short at centre-back, and I'll show you in a minute that graphic that I've got on this. We are short up front. We are short in attacking areas. We really are short in those areas. We must address them. If we don't address the centre-back and a utility forward who can play minimum. This is minimum. And that's not a lot of business. 2 players ain't a lot of business, right? If Liverpool don't address, those 2 bits of business in this January transfer window, Liverpool will come out of this season trophyless. Confident prediction, guys. Now, tell me this. Is that acceptable? If I told you back at the start of the season that Liverpool would end this season without a trophy, which I think will happen if we don't bring in at least a centre-back and a utility forward in January, would you have accepted that? I'd like to bet that the vast majority of real Liverpool fans, not the happy clapping minority, would not have accepted that in the slightest. Now, it also says this. Club sources suggest that the organisation prefers long-term planning over temporary fixes. Right, let's get one thing clear. Now, I'm not saying that we should have signed this player. I'm just going to use him as an example. If we had signed Antoine Semenyo in January, would he have been a short-term fix? No. He would have been a long-term player who would have been here over a longer period to compete with Cody Gakpo for that left-hand side to push Cody. Now, one of the things I think has really hurt Cody this year, and I love Cody to bits. I thought he was great last season. I think this season he's been dreadful. And I think to push Mo to some degree as well. Cody last season was great because he knew that he had Luis Diaz in the squad as well. And if he didn't play, Luis Diaz would play. And Luis Diaz knew that if he didn't play well, Cody would play. And if Cody wanted to put his place back, if he got dropped, he knew he had to play really well when he got his chance. Now, Cody knows that he can go out there and play however, and he ain't going to get dropped because there's nobody else behind him. Because manager ain't going to use Rio, and he ain't going to use Federico because, one, he doesn't trust Rio, and the club can trot out the same tired bollocks about we ain't signing anybody on the left-hand side because we don't want to block Rio's path to the first team. Really? Honestly, do you honestly think we're going to fall for that? Do you? And the manager can come out with the most ridiculous stats like, oh, guess what? Rio Ngamo has played the most minutes of any 17-year-old in the Premier League. Pointless stat. Stupid stat. He might as well have said that Rio is the only player called Rio in Europe who's played the most minutes. Stupid stat for the manager. Absolute doublespeak and crap from Arne Slot yet again. So let's get this clear. That would have been a long-term fix. Mark Gahey, say he came in. I don't think he will, because I think Palace will try and hang on to him, despite the fact that obviously that Glasner is a hypocrite. Do we think that Gahey is a short-term fix if he came in January? No, of course not, because he's going to be here longer term. No matter who, no matter if Ibrahima Konate signs a new contract, which I hope he does, and I hope he is sold. No, not short term. Do we think that any of these targets that have been talked about by, whether it's just the media or even fans, or even those within the so-called no, are short-term fixes? Bradley Barcola, for example. Personally, don't want to see Bradley Barcola at the club. Don't rate him in the slightest. Wouldn't be a short-term fix. I'm sure this is a player they would see as having a long-term future at the club. Just they're the three names that I kind of pluck out of the top of my head for now. So realistically, the club and some of these writers within the Liverpool-centred media, the brown noses to the club, are treating us as fans like absolute fucking idiots if they believe that we have got a squad that is capable of competing for the rest of the season. Let me share this with you. This is our current midfield and defensive depth at this moment in time. So our midfield, our defensive depth, we have Konate, Leone, Van Dijk, Gomez, Reece Williams, not around at the moment, Kirkes, Robertson, Frimpong and Bradley. Right, so we've got centre-back wise, Konate, a guy who is consistently inconsistent and probably realistically doesn't want to be here, because we're hearing obviously talks about his agents going to Madrid and wanting Madrid to sign him, or Bayern or someone else to sign him. We've got Leone, who, look, Leone was great, was fantastic when he came in, did really, really well, but ACL injury, gone for the season. Van Dijk, obviously, yeah. Gomez, injured, unreliable, when does he come back? Who knows? So Gomez is out. Kirkes, left back. Robertson, left back. But look, centre backs there. We've got 4 centre backs, 2 of them unavailable. So effectively, we're down at 2 centre backs. 2 centre backs, right? Gomez, realistically, not going to be back in the short term. Realistically, not going to be used in anywhere near the short term or even the longer term. And Leone, not going to be used. So we're down to 2. We're down to 1 who is consistently inconsistent and 1 who is not having a great season. So apparently, according to the manager, we have enough strength in depth there. So realistically, Robertson, Gravenberch and Endo, for example, no, not for any length of time. For the odd game or for the odd 45, 50 minutes here and there, fine, do it, go for it, whatever. But long term, over a series of games, and to push Konate and Van Dijk, does the manager honestly think that Robertson or Endo or any of those guys or Gravenberch can be centre-backs? No. You take Gravenberch out of the midfield, you vastly weaken that midfield. Who are you playing at the base then, if you put Gravenberch into centre of defence? McAllister? No, he ain't going to do it there. Bajetic? No, he's injured. And manager doesn't really like him. Trainione? We're going to bring in a kid to do that? Honestly, having a laugh. Having a fucking laugh. Conor Bradley, injured a lot. Frimpong, not really a right back, he's more a right wing back, which, may work in this system now where we have this narrow midfield and the width having to come from full-backs. It may serve and actually help Frimpong. But centre-back wise, look at that graphic and tell me that that's strong enough. And if anyone at the club, honestly, Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, Arne Slot, if you look at that and you tell me that centre-back room is deep enough to you, you honestly are just clueless. You are absolutely clueless. Now, midfield-wise, we've got Gravenberch, obviously. We've got Bajetic out, Endo out, McAllister, Curtis Jones, I think he's having a great season this season. Curtis looks like one of our best midfielders. Leone, Viet and Szoboszlai. I think we're still short of a 6 to back up Gravenberch in that area. I don't think it's a priority for this window, but for me, it is somewhere that does need to be addressed. Now, let's forward options. Here are your forward options. Cody Gakpo is 50-50 for the weekend, currently injured. Ngamoa, not trusted, doesn't play. Salah at AFCON, not in great form this season. Chiesa, manager hates him for whatever reason, won't play him. Honestly believe he won't play today. Isak, injured, probably, yes, he will be back at some point, but he ain't going to be match fit when he comes back. He's going to need time. Look, I think we pretty much can write this season off for Isak. Ekitike is the one fit firing forward there. So you've got 6 forwards there, 2 of whom the manager won't use for whatever reason. He doesn't like them, doesn't trust them. I don't know. I don't get it. Slot, I really don't understand where your head is at on this one. Gakpo, who is just a man out at the moment. Salah, who is off AFCON, needs to come back in hopefully better form. Isak is injured. So we've got Ekitike. That is it. That's the option. So you're telling me that 6 is deep enough, or 4, realistically, and at the moment it's 1, is enough depth to get us through the rest of this season? Is enough to get us to the end of the season and achieve these mystical objectives? It ain't happening, guys. It ain't happening. And as I've just said, anybody within the Liverpool leadership that believes that that is enough to get us through to the end of the season is having a fucking giraffe. Absolutely having a laugh, because it ain't. Anyone will tell you that. Anyone with half a brain will look at that squad and go, that ain't deep enough. You look at Manchester City's squad, you look at Arsenal's squad, you look at those two squads, they're deeper than our squad. They've got the squad to compete in all those trophies, in all those competitions, and keep pushing to the end of the season in all those competitions, because they've got depth, strength in depth, really two players for every position. And they have a manager who will use those two players for every position. He will not look at players and go, oh, I don't like him, I don't want to use him. As Arne Slot's attitude seems to be to Ryan Gamoa and Federico Chiesa. And honestly, his attitude towards Chiesa absolutely stinks to high fucking heaven. It really does. So, look, that's where we're up to, guys. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Tell me where you're at with this one. Obviously, the days was ruined even more last night by the fact that Manchester United beat Newcastle and went ahead of us, which is just shit news as well. I was hoping that even two teams that I can't stand might have got at least played a draw or something. But look, the Wolves game today, it's going to be really fascinating to see how Slot lines up. To me, he has not got a choice but to play Chiesa. I honestly still believe, I might be wrong in this, I hope I'm wrong, please let me be wrong on this, that he will find some way of worming out of playing Chiesa today. He'll find some way. Suddenly Cody Gakpo, his beloved Cody, will be fit and he'll play him up top with Ekitike instead. I don't know how he'll get out of it, but he'll find some way not to play. That's what I believe. I hope I'm wrong. I pray that I'm wrong on that one. But I don't believe I will be. I genuinely believe the manager hates Chiesa so much that he won't use him. And there was a comment the other day on X. I can't remember. I think it was David Ornstein spoke about the fact that the manager had put Chiesa on a one-to-one training regime away from the squad. Now, if that's the case, that to me says I ain't using him. I ain't playing him. I'm not gonna give him a game, because why would you take a player away from the squad to do individual training? Well, and why does Chiesa need individual training? Because he certainly doesn't look unmatch fit to me. When he comes on, he certainly gives, I think, an awful lot more than a lot of the other players. This was reported that Arne Slot has placed Federico Chiesa on an individual fitness program for the festive period, with the Italian set to train by himself at the Exa. Weird, very weird, very, very weird. I don't know what's going on. And like I said, I genuinely believe there is a whole situation here. Now, look, all of this that is going on at the club at the moment is very odd. It's very odd. Like I said, it's looking obviously like Gahey's not going to come in January. That Semenyo obviously is not going to come. It's kind of giving a little bit of truth to me to this rumour that's going around that Liverpool don't want to back Slot anymore. They want rid of Slot. I don't know. I don't know. But, again, quotes like Liverpool have the freedom to react in the market if needed, but will likely stick with what they have. Again, coming out from The Athletic, from James Pearce and Greg Evans. Again, clue, I don't know. And look, today against Wolves, look, I'm hopeful that they get the 3 points. I am concerned about what's going on at the club. Of course I am. And a season that should have held so much promise is fading away so badly. So badly. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments on what is going on at the club and today's game, obviously, against Wolves. Prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 to Liverpool today. I think they will win, just with not a convincing performance, because none of the football we play at the moment is convincing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on this one. And obviously, please, if you've enjoyed the content, and look, guys, we're trying to build this channel up. We want to get this channel up over 1,000 and then really go for it, build it up to 5,000, 10,000, 20, 50, so on and so forth, 100,000. Let's get this channel up. And the bigger the channel gets, the more we can do with it. The more people we can get involved, the more we can do with the videos. So please, obviously, help us out by subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching Liverpool FC Journal. If you've enjoyed the content, like I said, please, obviously, subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you later.